Hey y'all, welcome back to another crochet tutorial with Mimi Made. I just wanted to say a few more things before we jump into the next clip. I swear I'm going to just be repeating myself, but I just want to give a little backstory on this cover up. So this cover up was free-handed, y'all. It was not even supposed to look like this. I had no intention on it looking like this. It was kind of a rush job because I was going to Mexico in like 4 days. So I said I have to have something crocheted, right? I ended up running out of yarn, so that's why I ended up using that light aqua yarn. And then I ended up finishing in the hotel room once I got to Mexico, okay? So I had to go back and count stitches and think about everything that I did for this. It is completely customizable. You will be able to make it shorter or longer depending on what you're going for. And I do give you details on how to achieve that look. I want to thank y'all for tuning in and watching. Make sure that you subscribe and comment any questions that you have down below. Let's get into the video, y'all. Come on. Hey y'all, welcome back to Crochet with Mimi Made. Thanks so much for tuning in. Today we're going to be doing this highly anticipated cover up. Y'all, this was a mistake, okay? It was not even supposed to come out looking like this, but that's the beautiful thing about art, is it cannot be a mistake. So let's get into it, y'all. Okay, so first things first, materials. I'm going to be using, I love this cotton yarn in the color turquoise and the color aqua. You're going to need a 4.0 hook as well as a 5.0 hook. You can also use a 5.5, a 6, or a 6.5 millimeter hook. Keep in mind, this is completely customizable, and the bigger the hook, the wider and the more wavy your mesh stitches will be. So it is customizable. You can have fun with it, y'all. Don't feel like you're tied down to a 5.0 hook. You're also just going to need a pair of scissors, tapestry needle to fasten and weave off your ends, and some measuring tape. This is optional because this cover up is completely customizable and you can create it to any length of your choice. You can just grab this measuring tape just to make sure you're on track and target with what you're going for, okay? So let's get started. Whichever color you want the top of your cover up to be, that's the color you're going to start with. So for me, that'll be turquoise. So I'm going to get my yarn together and I'm going to create a slip knot to start. Okay, and this is where it gets customizable. If you want to create the one in the photo, you're going to have to chain 300, y'all. I'm sorry, but that's what it is. It's 300. This was completely free-handed for a vacation that I was taking in like a couple days, and I said, let me just make something real quick. So I did go back and look at it, and it was a chain total of 300. That's to get the length that I have in the photo. If you want it to be a little bit shorter, you can do less than 300. You can do 200. Just know that whatever chain that you start with will be the length of how long it'll be, you know, just coming down on both sides for you to tie. Go ahead and chain as many as you wish, and I'll meet you at the end. Once you have your 300 chains, or as many as you wish, you're then going to chain up an additional 4 chains, and you're going to place a double crochet in that 4th chain from the hook. Okay? And then you're going to chain 4 again, skipping 4 chain stitches and placing a double crochet in that 5th chain. So all you're really doing is chaining 4, skipping 4 stitches, and placing a double crochet in the 5th stitch all the way down for the first row. I'll show you a couple more times before I fast forward and then meet you guys at the end, but that is just your pattern for this first row. Okay, and this is what it should look like so far. You're just going to continue the same pattern until we get to the end. Just leave a few more chains at the end and I'll show you what we're going to do. Okay, we've reached the end and I have a few more chains. So with this, I have about 6 chains, but I'm going to be skipping 5 chains. So I'm going to chain up a total of 5, skipping those 5 chain stitches and placing a double crochet in that last chain stitch of the row. Depending on how many you have left over, you might do something similar or different. So if you have 4 chains that you have to skip, you'll chain 4, placing your last double crochet in that last stitch. If you have 3, if you have 7, so on. That is just the end. That is just what you'll have to do to end the row. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Please leave me comments down below if you don't understand. Okay, now for row 2, we're going to chain 4. And we're going to place a double crochet in the chain stitch in front of the previous double crochet. Okay, so our next double crochet will not be on top of the double crochet stitch, but it will be in the chain stitch next to the double crochet stitch. Okay, so just watch a few more times. We're going to chain 4 again, placing that double crochet in the chain stitch right next to the double crochet stitch. Okay, I hope I'm making sense, y'all. It's just that every row is different from the previous row just by a little bit. And that's how you create that ruffle effect that you probably seen in the photo with the cover up. All right, so we're going to continue that pattern, chaining 4. If it helps, you're just skipping 4 stitches. Okay, so you're just going to continue with the same pattern. You'll do chain 4 and place your double crochet in front of the double crochet in the previous row. Or to make it easier, you'll skip 4 stitches. Okay, so you'll continue with this all the way until the end. And I'll show you what we're going to do to end row 2 and begin row 3. Quick background change, y'all. I went from my dad's house to my mom's house. But I've arrived at the end and this is what it looks like. I'm now going to be placing my last double crochet behind the double crochet in the previous row. And to get there, it was 3 stitches in between. So I chain 3 and then I'm going to place my double crochet in that stitch behind the double crochet stitch from the previous row. So however many stitches you have in between will be the amount of stitches that you chain, and then you're going to place your last double crochet behind the double crochet in the previous row. Okay? Okay, and once we have that, we're going to now start our next row. So we'll chain up 4, turn our work, and now we're going to be doing the same thing we did in row 2. We're going to place our double crochet in the stitch in front of the double crochet in the previous row, or skipping 4 stitches, okay, and placing our double crochet in that 5th stitch. Then we're going to chain up 4 and do the same thing again, placing our double crochet in front of the double crochet from the previous row. Chain up 4, same thing again, place that double crochet in the chain stitch in front of the double crochet in the previous row. You're going to continue with this same pattern all the way until you reach the end of the row, and I'll show you all the way at the end what it will look like. You should be able to place your last double crochet in that stitch right in front of it, and then I'll show you what we're going to do after that to end row 3. Okay, so I've made it to the end. So now I'm just going to place a double crochet on top of the double crochet from the previous row so that we can have some type of decrease going. There were 3 stitches again for me. So I'm just going to skip those 3 stitches and place that double crochet directly on top of the previous double crochet from row 2. Okay, so you'll do the same thing, however many stitches you have in between. Just make sure you chain that amount, placing your double crochet on top of the double crochet from the previous row. For row 4, we're going to grab our 5.0 hook, and then we're going to chain up 4 chains, turn our work, and we're going to be doing the same thing we did in rows 2 and 3, which is placing our double crochet in front of the double crochet from the previous row. Okay, then we're going to chain 4 again and do the same thing, placing our double crochet in the chain stitch in front of the double crochet from the previous row. And now that y'all know this, I won't be repetitive. Just continue this same pattern for row 4, and I will meet you at the end once again to show you how we're going to end the row and start row 5. Hey y'all, we at the end of row 4, and this is what mine looks like. Yours may look a little different, but as you can see, I still have those 3 chain stitches that I'll be skipping. So I'm going to chain up 3 again like I did for the previous row, and I'm going to be placing my last double crochet directly on top of that double crochet from the previous row. What I'm doing is just creating some type of decrease. As you see, like it's almost like a diagonal, almost kind of going in like a triangular shape. I know it's not perfect, but it does yield that look that we're going for, okay? So that is the end of row 4. To start row 5, we're going to chain up 4. And we're going to be doing the same thing that we did in rows 2, 3, and 4, placing those double crochets directly in front of the double crochets from the previous row. Okay, I won't be repetitive and keep this going all long. I will see y'all at the end of row 5 so that we can close it off and start row 6, which I believe is a little bit different from the previous rows. See y'all there. Okay, now quick table change again. I'm back at my dad's house and we're at the end of row 5. So now I'm going to chain up 4 because that's how many stitches I'll be skipping here. And I'll be placing my last double crochet in this stitch in front of the double crochet from the previous row. And I just did that because that is the stitch that worked best, so that I would have a decrease and have that diagonal shape still going for me. Okay, and you'll just do the same thing or similar to how many stitches you have left. All right, now for row 6, we're going to chain 5. Turn our work, and we are going to place our first double crochet in the chain stitch before the double crochet stitch in the previous row this time. Okay, then we're going to chain 5 again, and we're going to place our next double crochet in the stitch, the chain stitch right before the double crochet stitch. Okay, and that's just our pattern for row 6. Chaining 5, placing our double crochet stitch in the chain stitch right before the double crochet stitch from the previous row. Okay, I'll show you guys a few more times, and then I will meet you at the end so that we can end this row and start with row 7. Okay, now I'm at the end of row 6. So what I'm going to be doing is chaining up 5 and placing my last double crochet stitch on top of the double crochet stitch from the previous row. And I did have to skip 5 stitches to get to this point. That's why I chained 5. All right. You should be getting the gist of it now. However many stitches you have to skip is how many stitches you have to chain, so on and so forth. Okay. Now for row 7, we're going to chain up 5. And we're going to place our first double crochet in the stitch behind the double crochet from the previous row. Okay, just as we did before. Then we're going to chain 5 again and do the same thing, placing that double crochet in that chain stitch before the double crochet in the previous row. All right, this is nothing new, just like what we've done before. You'll continue to do this until the end of the row, and I'll meet you there to show you how we're going to end row 7 and start row 8. Okay, now we're at the end of row 7. We're just going to check how many stitches we're going to have to skip, and that's how many we'll chain. For me, that was 5, so I'm going to chain 5. I'm going to skip those stitches and put my double crochet directly on top of the double crochet in the previous row to yield that decrease, that diagonal shape. Okay, and that is all for row 7. For row 8, we're going to chain up 5, turn our work, and this row is going to be a little bit different, y'all. We're going to actually be double crocheting in the 3rd stitch, okay? Not counting that first stitch that we just ended with, but 1, 2, 3. That will be the 3rd stitch that we're going to place our double crochet in. And I'll zoom in for you all so that you could see exactly what stitch I'm talking about. Okay, now once I have my work all straightened out, I'm going to be chaining up 5 again. And I'm going to be skipping that double crochet stitch and going into the 3rd stitch after that one, okay? So if you can see, I'm counting after that double crochet stitch and going in that 3rd chain stitch after the double crochet. I'll continue to zoom in and show you again. After you do that, you're going to chain up 5. And then once again, skipping that double crochet stitch and counting 3 stitches from that. And then you're going to place a double crochet stitch into that chain stitch. Okay, and you'll continue with that same pattern, chaining 5, skipping that double crochet stitch, and placing your double crochet stitch in the 3rd chain after that double crochet stitch until you arrive at the end, and I'll meet you there. Ooh, child, sorry for the raspy voice, but now we are at the end of row 8, and this is actually where I'll be ending. So I'm chaining up 5. And I'm going into that 3rd chain after the double crochet, sorry. And that is it for row 8, y'all. This is actually where I'm going to be ending row 8. I'm not going to be adding any additional stitches just because this creates that diagonal decrease shape that I'm looking for. You should have something similar to this to end your row, but you'll be able to make good judgment based on what the end looks like, okay? And now we're going to start row 9, the last row that we're going to be doing in turquoise. Okay, and now you're going to chain up 5. I know it looks like I chained up 4 because I did, but I quickly went back and fixed it. But once you have your 5, you're going to turn your work and you're going to place your first double crochet in the chain stitch before the double crochet stitch. Okay, this is nothing new. We've done this before previously, but that'll just be your pattern for row 9. Chaining 5 and placing your double crochet stitch in the chain stitch before the double crochet stitch in the previous row. Okay, you're going to continue to do this, and I'll meet you at the end of row 9. This is the last and final row that we'll be using turquoise. After this, we'll be switching to aqua. Okay, we've made it to the end of row 9, and I'm going to show you how we're going to end the row. So we're going to chain 5, and then we're going to place our last double crochet just as we were doing before in that chain stitch before the double crochet stitch. So there's no difference here to end the row. We're just going to continue to do the same pattern we were doing the entirety of row 9. Okay, and even if yours looks a little different from mine, just make sure that however many stitches you're skipping, that's how many you're chaining, and you're placing your last double crochet on top of the double crochet from the previous row. I hope I'm making sense, y'all. Just make sure that you're continuing with that diagonal decrease shape. And it should be about 6 inches total when you measure it. If you want to keep going, you're just going to continue and do the same thing as you did in the previous row. So you'll continue the same pattern from row 9. If you want this a little bit longer, if you want this to be the length that was in the photograph, we're going to end the turquoise yarn here and start with our aqua yarn. So you're just going to cut your yarn long enough to create a tail to weave in at the end of row 9. Then you're just going to chain 1 and pull that yarn through so that it's nice and secure. And there it goes. This is what it should look like. Remember, you can continue if you want yours to be a little bit longer. All right, but now we're going to get into our aqua yarn. So I'm going to show you exactly what we're going to do for placement. Okay, I'm going to insert a clip right here. Okay, so really quick, I just went to go grab my finish cover up. But what you're going to do is take both ends and fold it so that they are aligned perfectly. Okay, and just pretend my aqua color isn't there yet. But when they are folded and aligned, you're going to grab your measuring tape and you're going to, I'm just going to measure from the top point of the project, the very top point of the project, to the where the aqua stitches started, to give you a little bit more of a gist of where to start your aqua section. Okay, it might be a little bit different from mine, but this is just the middle of the project. Okay, so I'm taking my measuring tape and I'm putting it at the top of the cover up, and then I'm just going to measure where my aqua starts, and it starts at about 23 inches. Okay, so that's where mine starts. That's just the middle of my project. So I'm just going to grab some stitch markers, and I'm putting a stitch marker in the one side of the cover up, and then I'm going to lift it up and put a stitch marker in the back side, the stitch that aligns right with that one. And it should look something like this. See, for my sample, I was completely off, but it's okay because it still came out looking right. So know that it does not have to be perfect. You'll be able to eyeball it, even if you have to try it on yourself and find out where you want your aqua yarn to start, somewhere in the middle. That is perfectly fine. There is no wrong or right way to do this. Just make sure that you are in the middle. You're starting your first stitch in the middle of your cover up. Okay. Okay. So now I'm going to go to where I place my first stitch marker. Here I just place yarn, but it's the same thing. And I'm going to insert my hook, and I'm going to attach my aqua color yarn. So I'm just going to create a slip knot, and then I'm going to attach it to my hook, and I'm going to pull that loop through and chain up 5. Okay, and that's how I reattach my yarn. Then I'm going to turn my work. Make sure you're turning your work, y'all. And I'm going to be doing the same thing we've been doing before. I'm going to be placing a double crochet a little further out this time. So it'll just be the chain stitch in front of the double crochet stitch in the previous row. Okay. And then we're going to chain up 5 again and do the same thing. We're going to be placing a double crochet in the stitch directly after the double crochet from the previous row. And you will continue this all the way until you reach your other stitch marker or a piece of yarn, whichever you chose to use, okay? And once you get there, I will meet you and show you what we're going to be doing for the remaining rows and the remainder of our cover up. Okay, so I've reached my other stitch marker and I'm just going to be placing my last double crochet on top of the double crochet from the previous row. Okay, just to make it easier, that's where we'll end. Then we're going to chain up 5 once again. Turn our work. And we're going to place our first double crochet directly in the chain stitch after the double crochet from the previous row, y'all. And we're going to do that again. Chain up 5 and place our double crochet in the chain stitch in front of the double crochet in the previous row. Y'all already know the drill. We're going to continue to do this until we reach the end. And I will meet y'all at the end of the row to show y'all what we're going to do next. It's similar to what we've been doing before, but there are slight differences. And I want to make sure that I'm showing y'all everything from this to make sure that it comes out correctly, okay? So I will see y'all in a jiffy. Okay, now we've made it to the end of this row. This will technically be row 11. So what I'm going to do is chain up 5 once again. And I have 1 more double crochet left. So I'm going to be placing my last double crochet right in the stitch again after the double crochet from the previous row. So just the same thing we've been doing, and it creates that decrease that we're still looking for. And this is what it should look like. To start the next row, I'm going to actually be chaining up 4. Turning my work. I promise there's a method to my madness, y'all. I'm just repeating what I did the first go round to yield this cover up. So now what we're going to do, we're going to be placing our first double crochet in the 3rd stitch, okay? So we're going to be skipping the first 2 stitches and placing our double crochet in that 3rd stitch. So when you're counting, do not count the double crochet stitch, okay? Now you're going to chain up 4 again. And similar to what we've done before, you're going to skip that next double crochet and count 3 stitches from it and place your double crochet in that 3rd chain stitch. Okay. Then you're going to chain 4 again. Skip that double crochet stitch and from there count 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. Place that double crochet in that 3rd chain stitch. Okay, and you're going to continue this pattern, chaining 4, skipping the next double crochet stitch and crocheting in the 3rd chain stitch all the way down until you finish this row. I'll meet you at the end like usual to show y'all what we'll do for the next row, y'all. We're almost finished. We just got 3 more rows after this one. I thank y'all for hanging in there with me. It's coming along. Thank y'all for being patient. See y'all soon. Okay, now we arrived at the end of the row and I have 1 more stitch left, so I'm just going to chain up 4 and I'm going to place my last double crochet right at the top of the double crochet in the previous row to yield that decreased diagonal shape. I know my Mimi Made gang got it by now, right? Now we're just going to chain up 5 this time. Okay, turn our work. The rows are slightly different, y'all, just slightly. And we're going to place our first double crochet. I had to get that cover up together. We got to place our first double crochet in the chain stitch directly in front of the double crochet from the previous row. Then, y'all guessed it, we're going to chain up 5 and do the same thing. Place our next double crochet in the chain stitch in front of the double crochet in the previous row. Y'all already know the drill. I will meet y'all at the end of this row to show you how we'll start the next. Okay, I'm at the end. I have another double crochet stitch left. So I'm going to chain up 5 again. And I'm going to be placing my last double crochet stitch on top of the double crochet stitch from the previous row. And we're all finished with that row. So now we're going to chain 5 again. Turn our work. We're almost there, y'all. Almost there. And we're going to place our first double crochet, just as we did in the previous row, in front of the double crochet from the previous row. So in the chain stitch next to the double crochet stitch. Okay, just as we did in the row before this one. Okay, then I'm going to chain 5 again and do the same thing. Place my double crochet in the chain stitch in front of the double crochet stitch. Okay, and I will meet y'all at the end of this row where we'll be doing our final row. For those who are going to stop here, you are going to be able to keep going if you like. That's the whole great thing about customization. But continue to do this until you reach the end, and I will meet y'all there for our last and final row. Okay, and now we're at the end. I'm just going to chain 5 here because I have 1 more double crochet left. And I'm going to be placing the last and final stitch at the top of the double crochet from the previous row like we did before. And we are all done with that row. That's yielding that diagonal decrease shape. So now for the last and final row, yippee, we're going to chain up 5. I'm sorry, I was behind a little bit. Just chain up 5. Turn your work. And then we're going to place our double crochet, our first double crochet, on top of the double crochet from the previous row. Okay. Okay. And then we're going to chain 5 again and place our double crochet on top of the double crochet from the previous row. And then we're going to chain 5 again and place a double crochet on top of the double crochet from the previous row. And you will continue this until the end of the row. And I will meet y'all there to show y'all how we're going to close it, fasten off, and finish with some last remarks. And then also tell you what to do if you want to continue with it. Okay, so I'll see y'all there in a second. Okay, now we've arrived at the end. And I have another double crochet left. I chained 5 already. And I'm going to place that last double crochet, right on top of the double crochet from the previous row, okay? And that is it, y'all. Y'all can continue if you want to make it longer than this. You'll continue by chaining up 5 and crocheting your double crochet on top of the double crochet from the previous row. And you'll continue that until you reach the length that you want in the aqua color yarn, okay? But for those of you that are finished, we are just going to cut our yarn long enough for a tail to weave in, and we're going to chain 1 and pull that yarn securely. And that is it, y'all. I'm going to weave in my ends off camera, but that is it, y'all. I'm going to quickly put in a video or a clip showing you the actual measurements. This was smaller than what I've done before, just to give you a gist of what it should look like, but I'm going to give you the measurements if you follow the 300 stitches from the beginning. Okay, and I just grabbed my measuring tape, and mine is a little less than 10 inches if you were following along with me. But if it's a little longer, a little shorter, it doesn't matter. Know that it is completely customizable. Once again, I'm just going to show y'all how you can tie it around your waist just once like that and let it hang. Yes, y'all. Excuse that string. But that's all. I thank y'all so much for watching, for sticking with me. Subscribe, like, comment any questions you have down below, and I will see y'all for the next tutorial. I'm so excited. I don't even know what it is yet, but I'm excited, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Be safe. See y'all next time.